Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, March 30, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that we have a cold front right there to the north of the Caribbean. And we can see that we still have that high pressure ridge sending a lot of easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. If we take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see the line of clouds to the north of the Caribbean associated with that cold front, affecting portions of the Bahamas and southern Florida, with some amount of overcast skies and rainfall at this time. If we actually take a look at the Caribbean, we can see some low-level clouds being pushed from east to west, all courtesy of that easterly wind brought about by that high-pressure ridge. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on. Let's focus our attention on what happened across Jamaica for today. So, taking a look at the visible satellite images across Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see that during the afternoon we had a buildup of clouds across portions of some southern parishes that brought about some amount of overcast skies and isolated showers to those areas. So maybe portions of St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland might have gotten in on some of that rainfall. Taking a look at the temperatures for tonight, we can see that we have 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and as usual these temperatures should be getting lower as the night progresses. As it relates to tomorrow's temperatures, we can see that on the Euro we have more in line with what average temperatures should be for 1 p.m. on Friday, because we see that Jamaica is not embedded in any yellows or blues, but we're in the clear as seen on the key that signifies average temperatures. However, the GFS at the same time for tomorrow disagrees with what the Euro is showing. The GFS is showing some blues that indicates at least 1 degree Celsius below average temperature. So either way, for the month of March, considering that we're wrapping up March now, we usually receive 87 degrees Fahrenheit as the average. And if you actually take a look at the thermometer, that's about the equivalent of about 30 degrees Celsius. So if we should be getting below average temperature tomorrow, it should be, let's say, around 29 to 30 degrees Celsius at most. Taking a look at the dry air map for tomorrow, we can see that the driest air on the key at the bottom is indicated by all the reds and whites within those reds. And we can see that majority of the driest air is right there off the coast of Africa, right there to the northwestern portions. Jamaica is embedded in some amount of oranges and reds associated with dry air, but it is not as robust as what we see close by Africa. Taking a look at the Saharan dust map for 2 p.m. on Friday, you can see that Jamaica is in the clear, no Saharan dust to worry about. Majority of the dust is right there off the coast of Africa, where we have the driest air as seen by the dry air map. Alright, so taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS are showing that Jamaica is being surrounded by some light to dark blues, and that's usually indicative of at least 1.5 meter wave heights or less. And we know that when we have consensus on both maps like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. And what's causing all of those low wave heights? It's due to the fact that we'll be receiving more of an easterly flow of winds, coming in at anywhere from 10 to 20 knots at most. However, where does all of that air pile up? Where do we have the least amount of winds? Wherever we see the darkest blues right here, that's where we have the least amount of winds. That's where we have all the air piling up and the clouds building up during the afternoon hours to form some amount of afternoon convection. So, more than likely if there's afternoon convection, it will be across sections of some central and western parishes. But where will we have the bias? Will it be across southern parishes or northern parishes? Let's take a look at the wind shear map. The wind shear map shows all the winds across the region in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We can see that for 1 p.m. on Friday, Both the Euro and the GFS are showing that the wind shear is going to be coming more from the northwest, pushing any form of upper level clouds, high level clouds, cumulonimbus clouds that build up during the afternoon hours, pushing all of that southward. So if there's a chance of any afternoon convection on Friday afternoon, more than likely those clouds will be pushed off towards the southeast, bringing more overcast skies and more rainfall to those spots on the south coast. So we'll see exactly what happens with that as it relates to the precipitation forecast. We can see that as early as 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is about the equivalent of 2 a.m. Jamaica time, we see some blues that represent rainfall across portions of some eastern and northern parishes. So maybe St. Mary, Portland, and St. Thomas might get in on some of that. And we see the consensus on both the Euro and the GFS models. And we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Skipping ahead to a couple hours later, to about 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 6 a.m. Jamaica time, we see more blues, especially across northern Jamaica, maybe even spilling into sections of St. Anna and Trelawney. More rainfall across Portland and St. Thomas. We have rainfall over the very same spot that are to receive rain at about 2 a.m. on Friday. And we see consensus on both the Euro and the GFS models. And we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Skipping ahead to about 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is about 10 a.m. Jamaica time, we see the blues spreading from east to west. So eastern and central parishes getting in on some of that rainfall on GFS. Same thing on the Euro as well. Moving ahead to about 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time now, which is 1 p.m. Jamaica time, we see the blues that represent rainfall across sections of most parishes. So eastern, central, and western Jamaica should be getting in on some more rainfall tomorrow, especially along the south coast with all that wind shear being pushed off, pushing off the upper level clouds to the southeast. So there might be more rainfall across portions of southern Jamaica. So St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland might get in on most of that rainfall. Skipping ahead to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is about 3 p.m., we see much of the same happening. So rainfall is definitely in the forecast for tomorrow on Friday. And if we actually take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast, this map is showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 3Z on Saturday, which is actually 10 p.m. on Friday. And we can see the most of the rainfall being concentrated across sections of eastern Jamaica, considering that we're going to be getting rainfall across sections of eastern Jamaica from about 2 a.m. and continuing throughout the day. St. Thomas and Portland resident should take necessary precautions just in case there is some amount of isolated flash flooding. Even although this isn't up to an inch of rainfall, this is showing at least up to 0.4 of an inch of rainfall at most. But either way, we see consensus on both the Euro and the GFS for the accumulated precipitation forecast, showing majority of the rainfall across eastern Jamaica because it is being, happening for majority of the day on Friday, or being predicted to happen for majority of the day on Friday, with rest of the island getting in on that rainfall, especially during the afternoon hours. Either way, ensure that you walk with your rain gear, umbrella, raincoat, whatever the case may be, so that you're not that drastically affected tomorrow. Alright, so considering that it is the month of March, we're wrapping up one of our main dry season, or the driest months of the year for Jamaica. We usually receive up to 87 millimeters of rainfall during the month of March. We're about to step into the month of April. We actually receive up to 114 millimeters of rainfall. It's still one of the dry months of the year, but it is not as dry as March, so we're gonna be much grateful for the rainfall that should take place during the month of April. And we'll be having a long range forecast in tomorrow's video about what the entire month of April will provide for Jamaica in terms of rainfall. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's talk some more about the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see some amount of clouds right there across portions of the northeastern Caribbean. So Antigua, Barbuda, portions of the US and British Virgin Islands, eastern Puerto Rico getting in on some amount of clouds and rainfall during the evening hours. We can see some amount of clouds right there coming into sections of Guatemala, portion of Honduras and Nicaragua. We can see some clouds right there dotting the coast of Panama, and we can see a lot of clouds right there coming into sections of southern Trinidad as well as eastern Venezuela. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images right now across portions of the northeastern Caribbean, starting the images from about 1:30 p.m. today, we can see the greens that represent some amount of rainfall, light to moderate rainfall, across portions of the northeastern Caribbean islands. So portions of Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, US and British Virgin Islands got in on some of that rainfall today. Even up to recording hour, we still had some more rainfall coming into sections of eastern Puerto Rico at that time. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we can see that we don't have much happening across Barbados, but to the north of Barbados we see some amount of scattered showers moving from east to west to the north of those spots, maybe pushing its way into portions of St. Lucia, maybe even Dominica as well. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see where we have some rainfall right there to the north of Cuba, as well as portions of southern Florida associated with that cold front that we mentioned at the beginning of this video. And we can see some amount of rainfall right there across portions of French Guiana as well. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, both the Euro and the GFS are showing that majority of the Caribbean should be receiving some blues that represent slightly below average temperatures for Friday at 1 p.m. The above average temperatures seem to be right there across portions of Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico, as well as portions of the southern and eastern United States. And we know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Friday, we see that majority of the Caribbean is in the clear. Majority of the browns that represent the Saharan dust is right there across the main development region, as well as portions of Africa. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, the highest waves seem to be right there to the northeast of the Bahamas, as well as to the north of Panama, to the south of Jamaica right there, as represented by all of those purples and red shadings that indicate up to 2-meter wave heights or more. And why is that? Because the strongest winds seem to be across those very spots. The strongest winds are indicated by the yellows, not the greens, but the yellows. The yellows indicate up to 25 to 30 knot winds, and we see the strongest winds right there to the south of Haiti, to the south of Jamaica, to the north of Colombia and Panama right there, not to mention to the east and northeast of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. So that's where the highest wave heights are for tomorrow, so it makes sense. Taking a look at the rainfall forecast for tomorrow by both the Euro and the GFS, the same spots that we see the rainfall falling now across portions of northeastern Caribbean, so Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, portions of Guadeloupe, St. Kitts and Nevis still to receive some amount of rainfall tomorrow. This map is showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Friday. We can see some spotty showers across portions of the southern and eastern portions of Cuba, northern portion of Cuba as well. Not to mention sections of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, just as stated earlier. We can see some amount of rainfall across portions of Venezuela, portions of southern and eastern Trinidad, which is already receiving that rainfall right now. We can see some reds that indicate up to 1 inch of rainfall. We might see some flooding across portions of Colombia. We can see some rainfall as well across portions of Panama and Costa Rica right there. And if we actually take a look at the GFS models, we see consensus, even although the GFS is a bit more robust with the rainfall that's expected across portions of Trinidad, showing even up to 1 inch. So maybe some isolated flash flooding might be in store for those spots. Taking a look at the western portion of the basin, we can see that for the most part Mexico is in the clear, but we see some amount of rainfall right there across portions of Guatemala and portions of Belize right there, with more of the rainfall being shown on the Euro model. The GFS is not that robust, but there's still some hint of rainfall right there on the border of Guatemala and Belize. I know that when we have some slight consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.